Hello everyone, and welcome back to AniMonolith's Tensei Slime Light Novel Summary Series. Continuing from the previous part, this section follows Rimuru as he begins constructing teleportation magic circles across the territories of the Demon Lords. Because these devices could easily become a double-edged sword, every installation site had to be chosen with extreme care. The first magic circle was placed in Tempest, specifically inside the labyrinth's isolation room. This ensured that even if the enemy somehow gained access to it, the risk would be kept to a minimum. The next destination was the Holy Void, Damargania, the territory of Demon Lord Degruel. As agreed during Walpurgis, Rimuru arrived together with Ultima and her subordinates. Unlike usual, Rimuru personally handled the construction of the magic circle instead of delegating the task. There were two reasons for this. First, time was limited. Second, Damargania itself was a highly unusual and dangerous land. Degruel's territory resembled a decaying sanctuary, a barren wasteland, and a deadly desert. This devastation was the lingering aftermath of the ancient battle between Guy and Milim. Although the clash had occurred long ago, its effects had never fully faded. Raging sandstorms constantly swept across the land, eroding everything they touched and completely isolating Damargania from the outside world. According to CL's explanation, when Guy and Milim's powers collided, the resulting destruction was so catastrophic that the excess energy was forcibly expelled into another dimension to minimize the damage. However, that power never truly disappeared. Instead, it continued leaking through dimensional fractures, creating the tragedy that still plagued the land. Rimuru was genuinely surprised that the consequences of that battle were still ongoing after so much time had passed. It was no wonder that Damargania was far too dangerous for humans to inhabit. At the heart of this territory stood a massive tower known as the Heavenward Pavilion, towering into the sky. The area surrounding it was called the Holy Void, protected by an ancient barrier and serving as the only relatively safe zone in all of Damargania. Outside the barrier lay an environment as dangerous as the permafrost itself. Weak monsters were instantly shredded by sandstorms, and even powerful ones risked death after prolonged exposure. Degruel and the giant race were no exception. Women and children, even those who had reached high combat levels, faced constant danger beyond the Holy Void. If even the physically overwhelming giant race struggled to survive here, humans stood no chance. That was precisely why Rimuru chose to come in person, rather than sending Vesta or others in his place. After Degruel designated the location, Rimuru installed a massive disc made of pure magisteel, engraved with magic formulas designed by CL. The structure measured 1 meter in height and 7 meters in diameter, weighing several dozen tons once completed. After setting it in place, Rimuru entrusted the remaining adjustments to Ultima and her demon subordinates, confident in their expertise with magic. The circles automatically absorbed magicules from the atmosphere, allowing the transportation of up to 50 people at once. Transporting larger numbers, however, required an enormous amount of energy. This was why Rimuru's magitransport ships, which anyone could operate, still played a crucial role. And so, with Damargania's magic circle underway, Rimuru continued laying the groundwork for the coming war, one calculated step at a time. Degruel expressed concern when Rimuru prepared to leave, but Rimuru reassured him. With veterans like Ultima, Veyron, and Zonda available if needed, there was nothing to worry about. Though Degruel still seemed uneasy, Rimuru departed anyway and headed toward Ruberios. After leaving Damargania, Rimuru headed for Lubelius. Once he finished setting up the teleportation magic circle at the location specified by Luminous, Rimuru entrusted the remaining work to Gobkyu and the surmounters who had accompanied him. With Gobkyu in charge, a proper transfer facility would surely be built, while the surmounters handled the fine adjustments to the relocation data. With that taken care of, Rimuru's duties in Lubelius were effectively complete. There was, however, another issue to deal with. Shion and her subordinates, along with Adelman and his followers, were scheduled to stay in Luminous's country. Since Rimuru had gathered them all together, securing accommodations became necessary. At Luminous's suggestion, they were offered empty rooms inside her temple. Rimuru accepted the arrangement gratefully and reminded everyone to behave themselves and avoid causing trouble. Adalman was reliable enough, but Rimuru couldn't help worrying about Shion. To be honest, he wished she would simply stay quiet and send him a message when the war finally began. Unfortunately, reality had other plans. "It's such a shame that I can't cook here," Shion said regretfully. "They say even a single day without cooking can dull one's skills." That thought alone sent alarm bells ringing in Rimuru's head. Isn't that supposed to apply to delicate skills like playing the piano? Come to think of it, Cheyenne was also skilled with the violin. Why didn't she practice that instead? Don't you need to practice your instrument? Rimuru asked carefully. You're always enthusiastic about combat training, but I rarely see you play the violin. Fu, don't worry, Cheyenne replied confidently. As long as you train every day, instruments are easy. It's just like adjusting seasonings when cooking. That's insane, Rimuru thought. Her way of thinking is completely wrong. Suppressing his disgust, he briefly wondered whether he should apologize to every musician in Tempest. Cooking and music were not the same thing. Even if Cheyenne's cooking skill could brute force results, too much salt was still too salty, and too much sugar was simply unhealthy. Balance mattered. Clearly, Cheyenne's priorities were misplaced. At that moment, Luminous spoke up. Cheyenne, was it? If you want combat training, Hinata should have time. If not, I can spar with you myself. As for cooking, I'll provide an unused kitchen and arrange the ingredients. Feel free to do as you like. Rimuru froze. Her words were so fearless that he felt a chill run down his spine. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late to stop the impending disaster. Luminous, letting Cheyenne cook is... I don't mind, Luminous interrupted calmly. In times like these, hobbies should be cherished. I once enjoyed cooking myself. Fu, it sounds fun. That's a wonderful idea, Cheyenne exclaimed, her eyes shining. I won't lose, Luminous-sama. Fu. Hinata is also quite skilled at cooking. Let's invite her as well. You've got to be kidding me. This had gone far beyond what Rimuru could handle. Bringing Hinata into this was absolutely out of the question. Faced with the situation, Rimuru did the only thing he could. He ran. Adelman, he said quickly. I'm leaving the rest to you. Eh? Even Adelman, a man of unwavering faith, hesitated, clearly sensing something dreadful approaching. But the die had already been cast. If anything happens, let me know, Rimuru said before promptly making his escape. The third destination was Milim's territory, the ruins of the former Beast Kingdom Eurazania, a place Rimuru was already quite familiar with. He teleported to the site of the old city, once reduced to rubble by Milim herself, and waited for the welcoming party. Since Geld had been sent ahead, Rimuru was accompanied by Gabble's group, along with Carrera and Esprit. Joining them were Gabble's loud and unmistakable supporters, Kakushin, Sukuru, and Yashichi, as well as Gazette, the captain of the Hiryu. In addition, several demons under Carrera's command were also present, bringing the total group to just over 100 people. Despite preparing for an impending confrontation with an extremely dangerous enemy, the members of the Hiryu looked unusually cheerful. The reason was simple. Ultima's special training in the labyrinth had been temporarily suspended. That training had been so brutal that the entire unit had died and revived countless times, lamenting that even death offered no rest within the labyrinth. In that sense, the labyrinth itself could only be described as cruel. That said, the results were undeniable. The Hiryu had grown rapidly stronger through this ordeal. Still, Rimuru believed that true strength did not come from sheer power or increased magicule quantity alone. A warrior could only be called first class once they had fully mastered their own power. Overtraining was counterproductive, and some things could only be learned with time. With that in mind, Rimuru decided he would later advise Ultima to keep the training at a more reasonable level. Returning to the matter at hand, the group had been waiting at the meeting point for about 10 minutes, yet no one had come to greet them. Rimuru had informed Milim of his arrival through the telepathy network, but perhaps she had forgotten. Aren't they late? Carrera muttered irritably. Gabriel and Esprit hurried to calm her down, suggesting they treat the wait as sightseeing, but their efforts had little effect. Rimuru understood Carrera's frustration. Having retained the sensibilities of a modern Japanese person, he was keenly aware of the passage of time. Although this world did possess a concept of time, and even pocket watches, they were bulky, rare, and expensive, typically owned only by nobles or wealthy merchants. As a result, when appointments were vaguely scheduled, such as in the afternoon, it was common practice to send someone ahead to wait at the meeting place. In this case, the fault clearly lay with Milim's side for failing to do so. Still, Rimuru saw no reason to get angry. Misunderstandings about the time or even the date were entirely possible, especially when Milim was involved. It's fine. Don't panic, Rimuru said calmly. I'll check with Milim. He immediately reached out through telepathy. Hey Milim, I'm already here, but there's no one at the meeting point. What's going on? Huh? Rimuru? Milim replied. I'm busy with my homework, but I told Midley properly. Maybe he misunderstood the time. I'll scold him properly, so please don't be mad at him. Rimuru could already guess the truth. Malim was probably so occupied with the homework Frey had given her that she had forgotten to pass along the message. I understand, Rimuru replied. No need to panic. See you later. And that was that. With a resigned smile, Rimuru patiently continued waiting for the pickup, while doing his best to keep Carrera's temper in check. And the video ends here. Let's follow the rest of the story in the next video. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.